Hello, and thank you for joining me. My name is Tim Elinsky. I'm the mayor of Cottonwood. I am pleased and honored today to be joined by Mr. Fred Piper here on Inside Cottonwood. So thanks for tuning in. Mr. Fred Piper.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate it. I have a couple real easy questions to ask you to warm me up a little bit.
You go right ahead.
All right, and then we're going to just really talk to you today about your childhood growing up here in the Verde Valley because, well, I'll let you explain it first, but where and when were you born?
I was born in Oak Creek Canyon, about a mile above Indian Gardens, about 12 miles above Sedona. And that's where I was raised at till I was 5 years old.
Till you were 5? And what year were you born?
That would have been 1925 to 1930. I lived in Oak Creek Canyon.
Okay.
Dad homesteaded a little 5-acre spot there in Oak Creek Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
Traded it out in 1930 for his rights to homesteader's property at the Chapel of the Holy Cross, better known as Horse Park then, Little Horse Park, but later became the Chapel area.
Okay, wonderful. So how was it in Oak Creek Canyon back in 1920?
Scratched to make a living. Just, it was a place to live. That was about it.
Yeah.
Of course, like I said, I don't remember too much in my first 5 years, except the winters were bad. And I know of one time that me and my brother were playing out in the yard, and my mother came out of the house yelling her lungs out, jumped up and run to the house, and what it was, the big old mountain lion laying out there on a log about 30 feet away from us, switching his tail back and forth over the log.
Yeah.
Well, her screaming kind of run him off.
Yeah.
Thank God for that.
Yeah,
Because he had us on his menu.
No kidding.
I really believe it right to this day.
Yeah, wow. That's amazing.
It's, it was just living, that's all.
You know, I have an old Arizona Highways from the 50s where there's an article in there about the last grizzly bear that was hunted in Oak Creek Canyon.
That's what?
The last grizzly bear that was hunted in Oak Creek Canyon.
You know,
do you recall any grizzly as a young man?
I have heard of it, but I can't confirm it. I don't really remember the guy's name, except I do know that, well, I say I know, I wasn't there, but Dick Wilson was killed by a grizzly bear up there in Wilson Canyon.
Okay.
And that's where the canyon got its name.
Oh, okay.
And that's the one that Midgley Bridge runs across, of course.
Yeah.
And the road used to go up the, well, it would be the east side coming down. The road would go up the east side to an old wooden bridge up there and then double back down the west side of the canyon and then on down to Sedona. Okay. And it was all dirt road too.
Yeah.
And just above the bridge, there's a trail goes up through there out on what's better known as Grassy Ridge.
Okay.
And he was getting a drink there at a water hole, which they don't have them water holes anymore. They're dried up and gone. And he was getting a drink, and bear got him, and he did stab the bear.
Oh, really?
Killed the bear.
Wow.
But not there. The bear killed him, and he was buried right there beside the trail for a number of years, and I do not know that it was ever changed out or not.
Okay.
But anyway, they found the bear almost to the top of Wilson Mountain, where he'd got up there before he died. And they did know that he had stuck the bear with his knife. And in past years, I'm going to say, on the past 10 years, I think, my cousin was riding up in that area, and he found a knife sticking in the bush, and it was on about a direct line where the bear had went. And so they still assume right to this day that that was Dick Wilson's knife.
No kidding.
But that was, hell, 100 years after that attack.
Yeah.
Well, that's where the canyon got its name.
Okay.
That was Dick Wilson.
That's great. It's a great piece of history. Thank you. Yeah.
So that, of course, like I said, well, that's just one of the things I know about.
Yeah. So, when was the first time that you came into Cottonwood? And what are your memories of Cottonwood?
Well, my memories of Cottonwood mostly after we moved out to the chapel. We didn't come to Cottonwood maybe twice a year. And that would be on what they called the farmer's market.
Okay.
And we'd pick up whatever we had to bring, like the pigs and chickens, and in other words, we'd load the truck up and we would come to Cottonwood. And these trails out here now that they say are the trails and trailheads all over the place, they were the dirt roads we came in here on.
Okay.
And and Silers, George and May Siler, they own the property right across the road from City Hall now.
Okay.
And it was still the same big lot, but that's where they held their main farmers markets at.
Oh, really? Now, what was it? Once a week or every day?
Oh,
of the week?
hell no! Once, twice a year.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
Hell no, we couldn't get to town every other day.
Oh, I see.
Once or twice a year, that was about it.
So your family raised, what did you raise
Oh,
into sell?
some pigs and chickens and whatever you'd raise out there that you could scratch out of that red dirt.
Right.
Well, that's about the truth. And and then in season, of course, we had roasting ears and corn and beans and vegetables. Bring in a load. And one thing I remember about it more than anything else is Dad would always get in here and get a snoot full of Dago Red before he went home. And that was a pretty wild ride going home.
That's great. So you would come in just a couple times a year then into
Probably
Cottonwood?
a couple times a year.
Yeah. Okay.
But I didn't participate in Cottonwood or the activities in it much until after I came out of the service.
Right.
And that's when Cottonwood became home.
Okay. And so we say Cottonwood, but I think it's important for people to understand that back then Cottonwood was quite small, and it was really just the downtown area of Cottonwood with some outlying.
Basically, it was a downtown area of Cottonwood, yes.
Okay. So what were some of the other outlying communities that you recall?
Well, Clarkdale. Clarkdale was the first designed, what do you say?
Master planned community.
Master planned community, yes.
Yes.
And that was for the smelter, and if you worked in a smelter, you lived in Clarkdale, and basically you walked to work. And it was the same way with the Clemens Saw smelter. That was Clemens Saw was a town built for the people that worked in Clemens Saw.
Right.
Now we'll go back just a little bit to the Clemens Saw, and I can remember myself when I was in here. Dad was working on the road going out of Drome. He was a equipment operator up there, and I would go up and ride with him on that cat of an evening. I think I was about 7 years old at this time, 6 or 7, and one night, just out of Drome, as the road goes around the turn, a rock slide came in on his cat. Well, that was one of the nights that I didn't get to go with him. And you know, I never did get to go again.
Wow.
He never would let me go again.
Yeah. Was your father injured?
No. He said the first rock hit in the seat right beside of him where I would have been sitting, and he left the cat. Of course, like I said, when you're working night shift like that, when something happens, you get the hell out of the way in a hurry.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. It took them 3 days with their shovel they had then to dig that cat out and get started again.
No kidding. Wow.
So that was, no, he didn't get hurt. He just hurt his pride to lose his cat.
Sure. So now the mines were active in the area until around 47, correct?
When?
1947 is when the mines eventually shut down, is that correct?
No. I went to work in Jerome Mines in 1947.
Oh, okay.
See, I got out of the service in 1945. And as I said, there was nothing in Sedona for a machine gunner, which is another story altogether. And nothing doing around there. And I came in here, and there was a little sawmill down here, Peterson Sawmill. I worked in it through the summer.
Okay.
And then naturally, being a single man at that time, I was the first one laid off. So I just went up to Drome and signed in up there, and I worked in Drome. That was in fall of 1947, and I worked there till the mine closed.
Okay. And so your father worked in the mine though as well? No, he did not.
He did not. He never worked in the mines.
He just operated equipment.
He was a road construction, cattle, rancher, what have you, but he never worked in the mines, no.
Okay. But
at this time, they still lived on the ranch out there.
I see. And as a boy growing up, though, the mines were active, and this was much more of a mining community.
I remember myself, and there was my nephew, Dickie Rudd, and we lived over in Clemens Saw, And right down on the side of Willard Street, there used to be a live spring in that canyon. And the horse troughs built out of wood, carved out of wood, and built out of wood. And naturally, the water kept them full and fresh water. And that's where they'd come in and camp, or tether their horses and go on downtown. And we'd go down there and play in the horse troughs. And I can remember many a time of getting my tail feathers worn for getting off down there. You get out there on the road, you don't do that. So anyway, Dickie Rudd and I, we got ourselves in lots of trouble around there. Of course, his dad worked in the Clemens Saw smelter, as my two uncles, my mother's brothers, they worked in the Clemens Saw smelter, and we was in here for Dad because he was working on that road job up there.
Okay, very good. So we're going to take a real quick break here from Inside Cottonwood, so please join us. When we get back, we're going to speak more with Mr. Piper about Clemens Saw. Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Kyle Benedict, news editor with Yavapai Broadcasting. Join news director Paul David and I twice a week, every week, right here on Verde Valley TV for Countywide. We sit down and talk with everyone from local police and fire agencies to nonprofit organizations, the National Forest, and so much more. For times and listings, go to verdevalleytv.com. Again, it's Countywide, twice a week, every week, right here on Verde Valley TV. See you then.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for Inside Cottonwood. My name is Tim Elinsky. I'm the mayor of Cottonwood, and with me today is Mr. Fred Piper. And thanks for coming back. We're talking with Fred today about his childhood growing up here in the Verde Valley. He is born and raised in Sedona. He's been here for coming on 91
Coming
years.
up on 92 years.
92 years, amazing. So before the break, we were just getting into discussing Clemens Saw. So I'd like to have Mr. Piper talk a little bit more.
Well, like I said, Clemens Saw was Clemens Saw. That was it. It was a housing unit, and it was fenced off, as under fence, and well, just like my neighbors up there, the Marinos, Mr. and Mrs. Marino, the old folks.
Yeah.
They were brought here from Mexico to work in the smelter.
Okay.
And they gave them a piece of ground up there, and to the best of my knowledge, it would be called a Spanish grant. In other words, as long as there's a Merino alive, they own the property. And to get to a different Panera going, so to speak, with Clarkdale was different. When they brought the people in like that, now the Tavasis, for instance, they gave them the property there at where the Tavasi Dairy was. Okay. They run the dairy there, but when the old folks died, they had a lifetime lease on the property. Okay. But when they died, it did not carry over to the kids.
I see.
And that's where the Tavasi brothers lost their dairy and
interesting.
And had to move out. Okay. That's when they went into the trucking business.
I see.
One of them took cattle trucks and made a living out of it, and the other one had the school buses.
I see. And
I went to John Tavasi's 90th birthday party. He was just from, let's see, I think from May or maybe April until July, older than I was. And he went home and basically stepped off his back step and stubbed his toe and hit a rock and killed him.
No kidding.
And that was the end of his 90 years here in the Verde Valley. Very good friend of mine, and enjoyed my time of knowing him.
Yeah.
Anyway, outside of Clemens Saw. Well, then we moved back out to the ranch after that job up there was done and waited for something else.
Okay.
And of course, my work is as a cowboy too. It carried on up until I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like I said, I picked fruit and dug tree holes and gathered in produce and picked beans for, well, I worked for anything that would make $1 back then when I was a kid.
Now, what area of the Verde Valley was this? Because I think it's interesting that
It's Sedona.
In Sedona. So,
Sedona proper.
okay, because
Where
Cottonwood,
Sedona's at now.
the whole region around Cottonwood here up in the Upper Verde was an agricultural community until the
Well,
mines came in. And
I think they refer to Sedona, Camp Verde, and Oak Creek as all as Verde Valley anymore. It used to be Cottonwood in the Verde Valley. And something else that I want to bring up.
Sure.
Cottonwood got its name from the cottonwood trees that's in this river.
Mm-hmm.
That's what some people think. Cottonwood got its name from the Cottonwood Camp. And it was a big cottonwood tree where you come down off of the mountain, and down the wagon road is still there. Comes down off of the hills between Clarkdale and Cottonwood, down into river bottom. A big cottonwood tree there, and they had a box nailed on the side of that tree. Now this comes from my old granddad,
Okay.
Abraham Lincoln Smith. I'll tell you about him a little bit more later. Okay. But anyway, this came from him, and that box was nailed on that tree, and somebody going through had some messages for somebody that they knew was in the area. They would drop them off, or if somebody was going through, say to back east, and they'd check the box and maybe have a letter for their wife or girlfriend or something back east.
Okay.
That was basically the mail system at that time.
Yeah.
Now, before that was before Pony Express got in and all of that, but Pony Express was running between Camp Verde and Prescott more than they were here in the Verde Valley.
Okay.
And of course, that was where your cowboys all gathered when they were shipping cattle out of Clarkdale. See, that's where the railhead was for loading cattle out of Clarkdale.
Okay.
And I never did load cattle out of there. I always worked the high country and shipped out of Flagstaff.
Okay, I see. So would you run your cattle then up Oak Creek into Flagstaff?
No.
No.
Off of the mountain. Okay, the cattle like Earl Van Daren, he had his permit in Dry Creek area.
Okay.
The cattle we'd bring them out of Dry Creek over the mountain, over Brins Mesa, and then follow right around the foot of Steamboat Butte,
Okay.
across Grassy Ridge, Castor Canyon, and out to the top of the mountain. And a place up there, the cattle was held in a pasture that included what they call arch tank.
Arch?
Art, A-R-T.
Oh, okay.
Arch tank. And we would gather the cattle in there, and that's where we'd do the branding at. And then we'd put them across Munns Canyon, over onto the mountain range. I'm talking about Burris, which, Munns Park, Newman Park, Blackville Park, and that's where the ranger station was also at up there.
Okay.
But that's where then we'd put the cattle, and after branding, of course, whoever you was riding for, that you rode then, usually watching for flies to see if the brands were peeling, and the didn't get any blowflies in the steer calves, and I won't go into that. But they did the blowflies, and you carried your bottle of sheep dip in the swab, and if a calf looked like he had a brand where a fly had got in it, you doctored the calf, and other parts there that may need doctoring too.
Yeah.
Because people don't understand that.
Not
so
these
I
days,
won't go into it.
How long would it take you then to run from your ranch up to top into Munns Park?
Well, it would depend whether you was afoot, horseback, or walking.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I imagine you did both.
I have done both.
Yeah.
And I can say right now, truthfully, that I do not know, but I think I'm about the only person that has walked across Lonesome Valley.
Oh, really? What brought you to walk across Lonesome Valley?
Somehow I didn't have the bus ticket, or the bus wasn't running, and I was in Prescott.
Uh-huh.
So I came out to Pinyon Pines, which was a bar out there at the side of the road. And it was a fork between 89A and 66, 89.
69, I believe.
89, 69.
Yep.
And I said, well, hell, I'll start walking. Somebody will be by and pick me up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was coming up through right there by Faines Ranch and Jaeger Canyon before the first car came by. So I can truthfully say I walked across Lonesome Valley.
Yeah, and it actually was
lonesome. Of course,
lonesome.
that didn't amount to anything then.
Yeah, it was lonesome back then, and there wasn't hardly anything out there.
There wasn't anything.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything there then. But anyway, that's my episode of that one.
Okay.
And of course, it's I've had lots of them like that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I worked at the skating rink in Oak Creek when they had the roller skating rink up there. And well, I say I worked. I was roller skating and keep down any fights, or I was a bouncer, so to speak.
I had no idea there was a roller skate rink up in Oak Creek.
At Indian Gardens.
Oh, was there? Okay.
There was one up there for years and years.
That's great.
And then they finally took it out.
Yeah.
The forest had something to do with it. I don't know what it was, or Garland did. I don't know which.
Okay.
See, the Garland bought that property up there.
We'll have to take a quick break here again, just for a minute. Please join us on Inside Cottonwood. We'll be gone just for a second. Thanks.
Hey there, I'm Kyle Benedict, news editor with Yavapai Broadcasting. Join news director Paul David and I twice a week, every week, right here on Verde Valley TV for county-wide. We sit down and talk with everyone from local police and fire agencies to nonprofit organizations, the National Forest, and so much more. For times and listings, go to verdevalleytv.com. Again, it's county-wide, twice a week, every week, right here on Verde Valley TV. See you then.
Hello and welcome to Inside Cottonwood. If you're just joining us now, my guest today is Mr. Fred Piper, and we are discussing his childhood here in the Verde Valley. He's lived here for a little while, coming on 92 years. So we've got a lot of great history, and we're just having a great conversation about it, so thanks for coming back. I wanted to speak with Mr. Piper just briefly about your experience here in the school system.
In the school system, I worked construction. And I was not home a whole bunch. He worked out of the Union Hall, and when you get out of work, you put your name in the hall and then wait till you're called out. And I worked on about every road job from Boulder down to Gallup and from Flagstaff to Phoenix. But in the meantime, going to school, you always had time for the school. And, oh yes, I want to mention one more thing. I was a volunteer firefighter.
Okay.
And where the fire station was is where City Hall is now.
Okay.
They had a truck in there, and we met probably once every 2 weeks and worked out of there. When the siren would go off, we made a run for it. And on the nights that we had firemen's meeting, we all gathered there, I think probably 3 or 4 of us at a time, maybe. And Glenn Skidmore was the fire chief.
Okay.
And The meeting didn't last long because he always broke out the beer after the meeting, and he was a beer drinker. Okay, so much for that. There at the school, my two kids went to grade school there in Cottonwood, or well, the Clemens Saw school.
Yeah.
And my cousin, she's a year and a half younger than I am. She was one of the teachers there.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, they finished up their school there, as my two younger brothers.
Okay.
And then when my kids went to school there, we was living down on what they call Main Street now.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to walk because we were on the inside of the bus circle.
I see.
The bus circle was the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was muddy and nasty. And the school decided that the girls should wear skirts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the big meeting came up, PTA meeting, and my wife and a lady by the name of Martha Fulgham were sitting in the front row. Jay Fulgham and I was sitting in behind them. Well, let me tell you, when those two women got through with the PTA meeting, our girls wore long pants. Not skin tight or anything like that, but
Right.
they changed right quick.
All right. Something more practical.
We didn't have anything to say about it. We just sat there and listened to them two.
Yeah.
But they made believers out of the PTA meeting.
Yeah.
And then we went on along there, and of course, like I said, the mud and the slush and all of that, the kids would have to walk up the road. So a bunch of us got together, fathers, parents, and we put a trail up alongside, right along where the old Catholic church used to be, where the kids didn't have to walk on the road, and up the trail, and it was a concrete trail, and I maintained it. If it got nasty and muddy or washed out, I run over there with my bobcat, which I worked right close, and cleaned up the trail and kept it in shape until they decided to raise hell with the road. And when they did that, well, they changed things considerably.
Yeah. And parts of that trail, that concrete trail, are still in place there.
What about it?
There's still sections of that concrete
Oh,
sidewalk
yes,
and trail in
sections
place.
of it still there, but it's blocked off on both ends.
Yes.
That's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, people walk up and down it a little bit now and then, but they've got a good sidewalk there now.
Yeah.
And when Tim Costello went in there to put that road in, the plans were all drawn, and I approved them because my property lines are adjoining the road. And he decided to change the road and bypassed the plans and took 12 feet out of my bank. And if it says in my easement agreement that it will be a retaining wall. Well, I got told to go to hell if I wanted a retaining wall, put up my own, and I did. And it still stands right now.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And the road was, what he didn't know is you cannot change the easement lines on a easement. Well, he did.
I see.
And so that's why that the stone wall is where it's at. It is mine. It is on my property, and ain't nobody messes with it.
Very good. Let's speak just for a second about your property, because I had a question from a woman that helps out a lot with our Historic Preservation Commission. She has an old photo of your property that shows that there may have been a Mexican entertainment hall on your property. Do you have any recollection of that?
Of what?
A Mexican entertainment hall?
You're talking about a bar?
It could have been a bar.
It was a bar. Yeah, it was a bar.
Okay.
It was a bar, pool hall, and the whole bit. It was not on my property. It was next to it.
Okay.
It was on the, actually it was on, oh damn it, on the other street that runs east and west, not north and south.
Right.
It takes off at my driveway and runs, it was on that street, and
Okay.
it faced that. It was a Mexican pool hall and cantina.
Right.
Okay, that says it. Well, anyway, that was all caved in the big snow of 67, 68.
I see. Okay.
That's when they lost that, along with the airport, the hangars at the airport, and the big red building at Siler's. It caved in. There was lots of destruction in that snowstorm.
Yeah.
And it was a bad storm.
It certainly took down a lot of the homes up in Jerome as well.
It took down a lot of homes all over.
Yeah, okay.
It snowed all night. I had 24 inches of snow in my front yard.
Wow.
Measured it. And I was taking my Jeep and just throwing snow every place. And it snowed all night. Yeah. On the 26, 27. Anyway, it snowed all night, and by God, I walked out there, and you couldn't hardly walk.
Wow.
So I got in my Jeep to go pick up some of my paying customers that couldn't get out of their driveways. And paying customers, hell, I never got paid for it. But anyway, went and picked those up, and I bailed out of my garage to throw snow in all directions, and it was like running into a brick wall.
Wow.
It was wet snow, and it packed down just hard as hell.
Yeah.
And so we kind of crawled around then till we got snow down and got the loaders and cleaned out the driveways, and it was not funny.
No, there's certainly a lot of people that remember that snowstorm as causing a lot of havoc in the area. Yeah.
My son was home, and his buddy, and my daughter, and we were all at home. And anyway, all of them sick. And naturally, my house, it broke in two in the middle. It had to be repaired. And water, we had every pot and pan under grips in the house. We couldn't keep up with them.
Yeah.
Because it was a bad storm.
Yeah.
But I was one of the lucky ones that didn't lose it.
Right. Right.
I could have lost it.
Sure. Well, I hate to cut you off, Mr. Piper, but we're limited to a half an hour on this show.
We got it.
And we could sit here for hours and hours and talk. And
Well,
I do hope to have you come back.
I'll tell you what. You get around to it. I'll give you another one. I'll drop you a DVD by and let you look at it. And if you like what you see on it, we'll sit down and do a different one.
Okay, I'd appreciate that very much.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Well, thanks very much for joining us on Inside Cottonwood. We're going to say goodbye to Mr. Piper. We'll certainly have him back again. I appreciate it. Again, I'm the mayor of Cottonwood. My name is Tim Elinsky, and we hope you join us again next month. Thanks.